All right, welcome back to our very lovely podcast we have done twice now. Once, no, two times. I have Jake, Cam with me. First thing we're going to do is we're going to recap last week's results. So, as you can see on my screen, Jake went, he took first place last week. He hasn't won all year, so he finally got one. Cam and I let him win. He scored 170 points, and then Cam got second at 165. I was last. I've been getting my ass kicked for the past 4 weeks. That's okay. This is where we turn around. Jake, talk me through your lineup last week. I mean, 170 points is phenomenal for a cash lineup.
Yeah, so really starts with the quarterback position. Trey Lance was cheapest play on the slate, 5,700. I wasn't too thrilled with having him in my lineup, but he just opens up so much value that you can plug in, especially with Madison. Dalvin Cook was the surprise Sunday morning inactive, so Madison was the chalk at 5,500. So I think all three of us had him in our lineup, right?
Nope, I did
So
not.
ready to fade him. So yeah, Trey Lance and Madison with those two guys as cheap as they are, they opened up a lot on the lineup. So I was able to fit in Hopkins at 7,600, Adams, who was a smash at 8,200, and then Jefferson at 7,700. I had a little stack with Dwelly. He was also pretty cheap, but that didn't really work out. But that was fine. He didn't kill me. Actually, I don't think there was a big scoring tight end on the slate this week, so that helps. Yeah, Fournette was 5,200. He ended up scoring. He's just getting so much volume in that offense right now, so we kind of knew he was going to have a big game eventually. And yeah, that was it. Higgins, although he didn't have a great game, he saw a lot of volume. He was just coming off an injury. He still had 7 targets, so I think we're going to talk about him a little later in the podcast.
Yeah, I Higgins had two drops. So I could that could have went a different way. I feel like. Yeah, I mean, Jake, your lineup is phenomenal. Cameron, walk me through what you had. So it was Cam scored 165 points. I'm really interested in how you got to like none of us played Derrick Henry. I feel like we were afraid to, and you did. Talk me through that.
Yeah, I mean, very favorable matchup against the Jags, and it's Derrick Henry. He's going to get the ball 75 times a game, so you can just about count on him outdoing his value. So, with the value that you could pick between, Leonard Fournette was a smash play. I think everybody knew that, and then like Jake said, Alexander Madison with the late Sunday news. Could save some money there and still pay up for him. Was even able to squeeze Devonte Adams into that lineup. So had some pretty heavy hitters. Things that killed me though, um, I picked Laviska Shenault, which with DJ Chart being out, should be a smash play. Should see a lot more volume, but he didn't get a target until the fourth quarter. Luckily, that was a 75-yard pass completion, so he still put up some points. Didn't kill me. Also, I played Keenan Allen. He was 6,500. Sees about 10 targets a game. Thought the game would be a shootout. It definitely was. But unfortunately, all the targets went to Mike Williams. And I don't know if it's just one of those weeks where I did something wrong, but definitely didn't feel great about that one. But I think overall, my favorite play of the week was Ricky Seals Jones at 2,500. Um, he absolutely smashed that value. Uh, Scored close to 10 points, so happy about that. But yeah, ultimately, what killed me this week, I scored 165 and then had Daniel Jones as my quarterback. And of course, he went down.
He got his
All
head
well,
bashed in.
yeah, he got that's putting it politely. Man was he got hit trying to run it in for a touchdown. Woke up, could barely stand up, about fell over. So yeah, he scored 2 points for me. Had he not, we're probably looking at the 1 to 80 department, and I come home with some money this week. But yeah, unfortunately, that killed me.
Yeah, and I think that Daniel Jones went out with midway through the second quarter. I mean, already 100 yards passing. And the podcast that we did not put up because it was 75 hours long. Cam and I had a side bet that I would take Daniel Jones over 22 points and he'd take the under. So I think he might have smashed. I mean, they look very good. Not gonna spend too much time on my lineup. It was doggy doo doo trash. Um, did not play Madison because I had to play Damien Williams. I just had to, unfortunately, on my part there. And then putting T Higgins in my flex also kind of killed me. Other than that, a pretty good lineup. Trey Lance was an inch away from a touchdown, and then if Debo Samuel didn't run it in, um, could have been another one. So tough week. By the way, if Jimmy Swagger is listening to this podcast, I'm beating your ass this week. This guy has been playing me for the past year, and he beats me every week. This is the week that I beat him. So what we're gonna go into is kind of a first look. Each one of us is gonna pick. There's three categories. So there is um, a cheap value, a mid-range value, and then who we're looking at high priced, who we want to attack this week. And this is not us looking at no reporting. This is barring injury. All that fun stuff there. So, Jake, I'm going to start with you here. So, talk me through who you see being like you would be okay paying up for.
So for me, the couple guys I'm looking at this week are one, Terry McLaurin. They're going up against the Chiefs. The Chiefs defense is very bad,
Hmm.
and we all know that Terry gets just fed the ball on that offense. So we know that they're probably going to be playing from behind. They're probably going to have to throw the ball a lot. Who else is that ball going to besides Terry McLaurin? And there's no one on that defense that's really going to be able to stop him, not unless they shadow him with a corner and then have Tyrann Mathieu over the top. But I don't think that's going to happen. So yeah, Scary Terry at 7,100. I think in a game that's probably going to see a lot of points. It's got the highest total right now, according to Vegas. So I like Scary Terry at 7,100. Going to quarterback on the other side of the ball, Patrick Mahomes. He
Yep.
is expensive, but this is a get right game if I've ever seen one. They're 2-3. They just kind of got embarrassed on primetime Sunday Night Football. So I think against a Washington defense that hasn't been great this year, I like Patrick Mahomes. I don't see how he doesn't have one of his nuclear games where he drops 50 points. And then I'm going to go with Kelsey because Tyree Kill came out of that game with a knee injury. So if he's a little banged up going into the game, I think Travis Kelsey is going to eat. And then if you stack him with a Mahomes, and then I have a lineup already made this week where I have Mahomes, Kelsey stack with a Scary Terry bring back, and I don't know if you can go wrong with that starting cash.
Yeah, I agree. From what I have been hearing, is Tyreek Hill probably will play. Um, it's just it's not going to keep him out this week. And then Travis Kelsey got hurt as well with a stinger. I mean, Clyde got
Yeah, he
hurt.
got crushed.
It was man, rough week there. So I have Mahomes as my number one. I think Mahomes might put up the 50 points this week. Um, I live in Kansas City, and I could tell you that a little bit of panic going on in the city. I think that the Chiefs here, they feel that. I think they have to go to Washington. I think Washington is one of the worst defenses this year. I saw
It's
Matthew Berry.
bizarre.
Yeah, it's which is weird going from the best to the worst, but
With the
they're
personnel they have, it's wild.
they're I think their secondary is pretty bad. So I have Mahomes. My second one is CMC. They
hmm
play Minnesota, so this is if he plays, and I think
He
uh,
should, right? He was close to playing last week, and then as the week got on, they kind of pulled him back. I think he should play this week.
Yeah, and I think just playing seems. I think 8,800 is way too cheap for him. I mean, he could easily get 24 points comfortably. I mean, if you look at what he did this year so far, take out his injury, so 24 points. He did have a touchdown, and then week one, 27 with no touchdowns. I just think should be able to throw the ball a little bit. I know Carolina had a very rough week last week, and Cam, I'm sorry to say that, but that's all right. And I think my third play is going to be Tyree Kill. I think this week as well he's going to go for those deep balls. I don't know if Jake, did you watch the Saints and Redskins yesterday?
I did.
Jameis Winston looked like a stud, and then Marcus Callaway had a great game. So I think you can't go wrong with the Chiefs stack at all this week. That's could be the winner there. Cameron, what about you?
Yeah. So, if I'm doing my pay ups at every position, um, and you're gonna have to help me out a little bit because
Hmm.
I looked at this earlier and I just don't remember off the top of my head who each of these teams are playing. Who are the Ravens playing this week?
They're playing the
Chargers.
Chargers.
The Chargers. Yeah. So my pay up option at quarterback is Lamar Jackson. He's 7,400. We also what happened with the Browns. It has the capacity to be a shootout game. I think the Chargers are kind of defense proof as a team. And so there's going to be points scored. Lamar Jackson at 7,400, I think, just completely outperforms his value if you're willing to pay up for it. On the other side of the ball, my pay up option at running back is Austin Eckler. So I was looking at some stats today. Apparently, the Ravens are just god awful at giving up yards to receiving backs. And I think we're even seeing that tonight with Jonathan Taylor, as they're currently playing. Um, so we'll see what happens there. Um, but yeah, that's my pay up option at running back. Wide receiver, I've got Cooper Cup. Um, and tell me who they're playing again this week.
The
They're playing the
Giants.
Giants.
Yeah, so the Giants, I mean, there's going to be all the points to be had on the Rams side of the ball. Cooper Cup is as consistent as they come in terms of targets, and I don't think you can go wrong with him. But in such a positive matchup, I think there's plenty of points to be scored for him. Tight end, going back to the Lamar Jackson, Chargers matchup there. They're probably gonna have to be throwing the ball, and Lamar can really only throw to two people, and that's gonna be either Hollywood Brown or Mark Andrews. He prefers Mark Andrews, especially in the red zone. So if they're gonna be scoring touchdowns, it's either gonna be Lamar or him. So big fan of him there. And I don't know if you guys have talked about defense or not. Um, but I'll go ahead and throw my pay up defense for this week. It's going to be the Denver Broncos at 3,900. I do remember this one that they're playing Las Vegas. And anytime you lose your head coach mid-season, it's bound to be just a terrible game for that week. So I would not be surprised if they just completely collapse, especially to a decent defense like Denver.
Yeah,
And just as Cam was talking, Mark Andrews scored another touchdown, so he's
I
got to have 40
I
fantasy
just
points.
traded him 2 weeks ago. I'm so glad that I just good for you, Mark
41
Andrews.
points for
Oh,
Cam's
also
starting
traded
tight end of the week.
traded Lamar Jackson as well. It's all right. Maybe not listen to me. Listen to the others guys. Um, Jake, are there any tight ends that you like that you want to pay up for? I guess you said Kelsey, right?
Yeah.
So did I.
Kelsey is my tight end. If I'm going to pay up, I mean, that's probably not how I'm going to attack the tight end position this week. But if I was going to, like Cam mentioned, Mark Andrews or Kelsey.
Okay. Cool. So next, Jake, let's do the mid value. So how kind of we talked about this is really like for the pricing, who's gonna I'm trying not to butcher this. Who's gonna have the most points with their pricing? So are they gonna be 3x, 2x? If you pay 6,000 and they score 24 points, I feel like that's a good turnaround. So Jake, go ahead.
So I'm going to start with a running back and Daryl Henderson. They're playing the Giants, as Cam alluded to. I just feel like you kind of want a piece of that offense, whether it's Cooper Cup or Daryl Henderson, or if it's Bobby Trees, whatever. But Daryl Henderson is seeing so much volume. I mean, after he came back from that injury, he saw like 94% of the snaps at the running back position, and before he got injured, he was seeing almost 100% of the snaps. Sony Michel doesn't worry me at all. I think he scored at least 16 or 17 fantasy points in every game he's played the full game.
Yep.
And against the Giants, we just saw what Zeke and Tony Pollard did against the Giants. So I like Daryl Henderson this week at 6K. I feel like he's pretty safe. He's going to give you a good floor, and I don't think he's going to kill your lineup.
Okay.
Another running back I like in the same range is Deandre Swift. Now he's not seeing as many carries as Jamal Williams, but he is seeing the targets. Had at least 5 targets in each game, and they're dogs again in this game, so they're probably going to be playing from behind. So he's going to see plenty of volume in the pass game. He's had 20 plus fantasy points in at least 3 games this season. So at 6,300, I really like Deandre Swift. He's just one of those guys where any screen pass he can take one play to the house, and and he kind of already outperformed his value. And then at wide receiver, I'm going back to T. Higgins. He's 5,300. I think even last game, he missed the 2 previous games with a shoulder injury. He came back. He actually left the game for a while too with that shoulder injury, and he still saw 7 targets. Before he got injured, he had a touchdown in both of the first 2 games he played. So I think at 5,300, there's totally a way he smashes that value. So T Higgins for me is probably going to stay in my lineup every week until he either kills me or just his price skyrockets.
Yeah. Yeah, Jamar Chase is he's a story going from he can't catch a football to being a very, very good
He
wide
is,
receiver.
but his price is 6,700 this week, and really it's just for me. I want a piece of that offense. So if I can get T Higgins, who's going to still see 7, 8, 9, 10 targets at 5,300, I just think he's the better value over Chase. He's probably not going to have the big 70-yard touchdown that Chase has a chance to get every game,
Hmm.
but he's going to give you a good floor. And he Joe Burrow likes him in the red zone, so I like T Higgins at 5,300 a lot.
He's a big guy. Big
Yeah, I
guy.
think he's 6'5", right?
Big, big dude. I saw him against the Packers last week. Um, so Jake, we're on the same page with Daryl Henderson. 6K, and
Yeah.
whenever they can run the ball, I think that makes Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods or even Tyler Higbee be that much better. Makes Matt Stafford that much better. Um, I mean, the Giants are the 30th ranked run defense in the NFL. So I really like Daryl Henderson. My second pick is Jacoby Myers. He's 5,500.
So
And
close to that first touchdown last week.
I feel like that narrative. So, like, he is I mean, he scored 9 points last week, but he was
Got
very
tackled
close.
at the 1.
Yep. And so that touchdown would have turned into, you know, maybe 15-point games. So they're playing Dallas, and I don't. Dallas's defense is good, but they're still giving up a lot of passing yards. I mean, uh, who's Tony had Tooney, is that how you say his last name?
Kadarius Toney.
Kadarius
Yeah.
Toney. So he had a monster game. So I like Jacoby Myers as well from that. And then I actually have kind of two. Well, I have one quarterback at mid range value. I think Tyler Heineke is at 5,800 is gonna. I mean, he has a very good chance at that 300 yard bonus. I mean, the guy's running the ball too. 5 attempts, 40 yards. I mean, he's gonna run. And Chiefs defense, like their Swiss cheese, I might be able to go out there and complete a pass.
Mhm.
So I really like Taylor Heineke, and he's good to save. So you can play Heineke, and you might get McLaurin running back with Kelsey or Hill. I think that'll be fine as well. And at
Yeah.
tight end, I really like Tyler Higbee this week. He's 4,400. And he just is. Um, I don't no real I just like him this week. Uh, I mean, he's getting whenever 6 targets, 5 targets, and he had 2 last week in Seattle, which that is what it is. It was a weird game, but I like Taylor
But they
Higbee.
seem to like to draw stuff up for him in the red zone. I feel like when they get in the red zone, they've always got to play drawn up for him. So I think Higbee's a pretty good play at 4,400 too.
Yeah, yep. I like him. Um, Cameron, pass it over to you.
Yeah, so mid-tier options. I'm just going to start with quarterback, run down the list. So my quarterback option, mid-tier is going to be Matt Stafford this week. Again, going against the Giants, I think there's all the points in the world to be had in this game on the Rams side of the ball. Also, Matt Stafford basically gives you, um, you know, I'm not going to say a guarantee, but he's always teetering on the edge of getting you that 300-yard passer bonus,
Yep.
which is a very important thing. I have all my numbers in front of me right now, so
Okay.
I can speak to them better than our previous little
You're
segment,
playing
but
league. It's all good.
yeah, it's all good. So like you look at his points in the last 3 weeks. He's got 32, 20, and then 20 again. And this week, I would anticipate him having similar to what he did in week 3 against Tampa Bay, which has a very depleted secondary. Plus, the Rams are going to have the ball like crazy in this game because they're going to be playing with the backup quarterback more than likely. So, at 6,500 there, I don't know how you, or 6,700, sorry, I don't know how you can really beat that value. And of course, you can always stack him with my pay up wide receiver with Cooper Cup, or even if you have him in a lineup with Daryl Henderson, I think that's fine too, because he catches the ball out of the backfield sometimes.
Mhm.
Running back, you guys hit the nail on the head with the same two that I had. It was kind of a toss up between Daryl Henderson or DeAndre Swift. I wanted to put them both there. I put DeAndre Swift just to not have so many Rams players. Um, but yeah, looking at DeAndre Swift, because DraftKings is a PPR format. I highly value the pass catching backs more than the ones who get a lot of opportunity, unless you're talking about somebody like Derrick Henry. But you're looking at DeAndre Swift. He gets 6, 7, 8 targets a game. You can't beat that. I think this Detroit Cincy game is going to be kind of um, more of a shootout than people are going to give it credit for. I don't think either defenses are particularly awesome. So yeah, I think there's going to be some points scored. And I really do think DeAndre Swift at this point, from what we've seen from him this year, is just completely game proof. Doesn't matter what the script is. They don't have many weapons. As far as receiver goes, so they got to throw the ball to somebody, and it's either going to be him or T.J. Hawkinson. So yeah, and then I mean Daryl Henderson speaks for himself. He's going to get the handoffs, and yeah, they're going to win that game by a mile, so it's going to be favorable to game script for him. A wide receiver mid range. So I know Jake said he went with T. Higgins, but I'm going Jamar Chase. The reason I'm doing that is looking at um, how Minnesota played this past week. They have a 1-2 punch at wide receiver, obviously on that team with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. And the reason I'm going with Jamar Chase here is because of what Justin Jefferson did this week. I mean, I think Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, they're a similar caliber player. I mean, they come from the same college. They both had incredible performances while they were there at LSU. Um, and I just think that if Justin Jefferson can do it, Jamar Chase can do it. Either way, like I think all those receivers are viable. For whatever reason, Adam Thielen had a dud week this past week. I think he had like 8 points or something like that, and that's because I think just Justin Jefferson was open so damn much they didn't really have a reason to go to him. So I'm going with Jamar Chase on this one at 6,700. He's a little bit on the upper end of that mid range, but I like him out of the Bengals options. Tight end. So this one's a little bit different, but it's a guy I don't think is getting enough credit so far, especially what we saw from the Houston game with the Patriots playing them.
I
And
just hovered over your pick. You're welcome. That's how much I
it's
know you.
it's Hunter Henry. Is that who you had?
Yeah, I was hovering over him.
Yeah. So Hunter Henry this week is he's 3,900. And you look at his game log, everybody's talking about Jacoby Myers. Nobody's talking about Hunter Henry. We look at the last 3 weeks: 6 targets, 5 targets, 8 targets. And in the last 2 games, he scored a touchdown. So I definitely think you have that upside. And the reason that I'm on him this week is they're playing Dallas. Dallas looks to be legit on both sides of the ball. They're going to score a lot of points. I mean, Houston put up 25 and almost won this past week. So I think Dallas is absolutely going to smoke New England in this game. Mac Jones is going to have to throw the ball a lot, and he seems to, in unfavorable game scripts against Houston and Tampa Bay, he seems to like Hunter Henry in those situations for whatever reason. So, I think he gets a target share and always has the, chance of a touchdown. And then finally, defensive wise, so looking at that mid range, so I'm looking at the Colts defense. Reason being, I think the Colts team is better than what people give it credit for. I mean, Carson Wentz didn't get to play in training camp, so he's getting live reps as the season goes on, and I think their defense is really underrated. You look at the last 3 weeks against decent teams. So the Rams they had 11 points, the Titans they had 7. prior to the wide receiver injuries, and then against Miami this past week, of course, they had Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. They had 8 points. So, going into Houston, playing Davis Mills, the rookie, even though he played well against the Patriots, he is a rookie. Rookies are mistake prone. So I like the Colts there at that mid-range defense option.
So I was kind of going through what you guys were talking and kind of thinking about some other players. I think somebody we didn't talk about, and I wanted you guys' opinion. Kareem Hunt. Why do we skip over Kareem Hunt?
I think Kareem Hunt he's fine. He's starting to get up to that range where I'm not really looking to pay up for him. He's 6,200 this week, and he's going to split time with Nick Chubb, where he has value and he can perform. But I'm not going to pay 6,200 for a guy who's in a timeshare when I could have Daryl Henderson at 6K, who is going to have 95% of the touches in his backfield. So I think he's fine, but I think at that price, there's just other options that I like better.
Yeah, and this is something to where I think I struggle with in cash games because in my head, not saying I would do this, but I could go Daryl Henderson and Kareem Hunt, and then maybe I go pay up for CMC. I just think with the game script, I think just with Arizona, obviously they had a rough week last week. It's just a weird game, but that game could go. Arizona's up by a bunch, and I got to dump off to Kareem Hunt. Cam, do you have anything to add with Kareem Hunt?
Um, Man, I don't know. I'm not a Kareem Hunt truther by any means, for a lot of the reasons that Jake said. But if you compare that situation to what's going on in Detroit with um, Jamal Williams and Deandre Swift, I mean Deandre Swift has a similar carry volume and target share, and arguably the uh why okay the Browns, sorry, just had a mental collapse there, but I mean the Browns arguably have a better chance to score, but that's the thing to me is the scoring. So when I look at those two running backs, and this is what primarily turns me off of Kareem Hunt, and this is not backed by any stats. I have not looked at this. I need to do a little bit more research, but just like watching the games, passing the eye test, DeAndre Swift, whenever they're inside the 10-yard line, he's in the game, he's getting the carries, and the ball's going to him. But whenever you're looking at the Browns, I feel like it's the person in the game at that point for them is Nick Chubb. He's the one getting the goal line work, therefore has the upside of the touchdowns that Kareem Hunt doesn't have. Not saying that Kareem Hunt can't score a touchdown, on a pass play out of the backfield or whatever it may be. But I feel like that red zone work is what really puts me over the edge on some of the other guys compared to Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I feel like when I watch the Browns, Kareem Hunt, he is in the red zone. He does play, because like he's very touchdown dependent. I think that's something that could, you know, somebody like me who's struggling right now in DFS. I just see those he's averaging 16 points a game and just being or 18 points and like, oh, I gotta play him. He's cheap. Um,
I'm looking this up right now. Okay, so here's the um, so this is the 2021 red zone stats. So the player that is leading the league in red zone rushing is, as far as attempts, are Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry, both with 22 attempts. But you are right, Kareem Hunt is in there, but with almost half that at 12.
do your research, kids, right there, right there. Um, and then there was one other player, but we'll if I remember, I'll come back to it. Jake, talking
I've got
about.
one to bring up actually, and I skipped this when we are talking about the higher pay up option.
Mhm.
If Christian McCaffrey is available this week, which I think he will be, are you paying up for him?
Yeah, I am. I had him as my number two. I have Mahomes, CMC, and Hill.
Okay, if you said that, then I apologize. I just wasn't listening.
Wow.
That's on me.
Yeah, I think CMC coming
Okay,
back. I think that offense, they need that.
yeah, agreed.
Okay, Jake, talk about your value wide receivers. So, I think you guys so like 4K under, kind of looking for maybe 5K and under. What you're looking at? Jake, start us off.
So for me, typically, I like to pay down at running back if there's a big value, but there are a couple guys that were at wide receiver I'm looking at. The first one's gonna be Rondell Moore. 4,600. He had 6 targets last week, but the big thing that stood out this last week was he finally outsnapped Christian Kirk. So he was playing so limited all year long, but it seems like he's starting to take over Christian Kirk for that, third option, and he's going to demand targets. He's so electric. He just suits that offense so well.
It's very
So
fast.
if he's out there, he's going to get the ball, and it takes him one play. I mean, he's already done it this year. So at 4,600 and a guy who's going to start seeing over 50% of the snaps. He's going to demand targets, and it only takes one for him, like I said. So at 4,600, if you want to, throw a dart, I think there's a lot worse options than him. And then another guy who is mid price. Now this one's very, very tricky and risky. It's Rashad Bateman. If he plays coming off IR, we already talked about this a little bit off air tonight, but the Ravens are just throwing the ball so much more this year compared to previous years because they have no help in the run game, right? They got Tyson Williams, they've got Lev Bell, they've got Devonte Freeman, so they're throwing the ball a lot more. He's a first round draft pick. Um, they've got Hollywood Brown, Mark Andrews, but no real wide receiver too, right? So that role is open, and they already have the draft capital invested in him. And at 3K, he probably isn't going to play the whole game. They're probably going to put him on a pitch count, but he's a freak athlete. So at 3K, another kind of guy, if you're playing in a big tournament or a GPP, you want to kind of throw him out there as a dart. I'm fine with that. But those two are like the real value plays I'm looking at wide receiver. Like I said, I'm not going to be paying down at wide receiver this week because there's so much value at running back this week. So for the running backs, I think we'll probably all be on this guy. But Daryl Williams, CH is out, and Daryl Williams saw 6 of the 7 running back opportunities last night after he left the game, and he's 4,900 bucks. So that almost seems like a free square to me. He's on, one of the best offenses in the league. They're gonna be up against Washington, so he's gonna see some rushing volume. So at 4,900, I feel like he's probably gonna be in all my cash game lineups. Another one, Devonte Booker. He scored twice this last week. When Saquon went out, he saw 16 carries, he saw 14 targets, and he's only 5,400. So the only thing that worries me about Booker is the matchup. He's playing the Rams, not a team you kind of want to run running backs out there against. But let's say Daniel Jones is out. Booker's going to see a lot of carries. He probably won't be very efficient with his carries, but he's also going to see a lot of dump offs from Mike Glennon or whoever the hell's throwing the ball.
Napoleon Dynamite.
So at 5,400, I also feel like he's probably not going to destroy your lineup, but he allows you to pay up for guys like Kelsey, Hill, and Mahomes if that's what you want to do. And then Cody,
Yeah.
Damien Williams, backfield mate there. Herbert
Mm-hmm.
out
Stud.
out carried Damien Williams last week. He had 18 carries. He needs 4,600 this week. So I think he had 18 carries for 75 yards last week. So if he sees 18 carries again and he breaks one of those and breaks that 100-yard threshold at 4,600, that's like a free square, So that's one to keep your eye out on. And then tight end. Cam had him this last week. Ricky Seals-Jones. This week he's only up to 3K, and he played so many snaps and he had 8 targets. So in a game where Washington's going to be down, they're going to be throwing the ball. He's going to have his targets. So at 3K, I feel like you can't go wrong with Ricky Seals-Jones.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
my value.
Yeah. Herbert, dude. Listen, I can talk about the Bears all day long. He looked
4,600. 18 carries at
phenomenal.
4,600 bucks.
Yeah, he looks. I mean, man, they had uh Alex Bars as a lineman, and he played like 20 snaps as a eligible receiver. I mean, that doesn't tell you what the Bears are gonna do. Yeah, I like him a lot. So at my value picks, you two know they're kind of questionable, but here's my first one. Deandre Carter. So he's 3K. So I'm bottom of the barrel here. Here, let me. I gotta see
In
if I can.
price.
Yep. So if Dwami Brown is out and Cam Sims is out. Like
And
DeAndre
wait,
Carter,
Curtis Samuel got hurt again, so
correct.
there'd be another receiver out.
Yes. Yep. And if you see what he did last week, 8 targets. He had 11 points last week and 9 points the week before. Did he return a kick the week before?
He did.
Okay. So this guy's electric, and he's always been okay, but just 3K again, bottom of the barrel. If you want to do Mahomes, Kelsey, bring it back with DeAndre Carter, like it's a very risky play, because my 3K wide receivers usually don't do well.
Andy Isabella.
Andy Isabella, D. Eskridge. I got a whole bunch of them I can name. My other person is Daryl Williams. So at 4,900, I think we all might be on it. Cam might not play him now that we're on it, but I think he is just, a smash play. The Chiefs have been trying to run the ball a little bit more, which is weird when you have Mahomes. But I think teams are figuring out for Kelsey, don't blitz, just do a 2 deep zone and just have Kelsey just try to pick you apart. So I do like Daryl Williams a lot. Another person that I like this week is Randall Cobb. So they're going to Chicago. Big rivalry game. And Aaron Rodgers shreds the Bears. He's just has done it for years. And the Bears struggle against the slot. So, he hasn't had he had a good week against Pittsburgh with 2 touchdowns. But I think the Bears are going to be focusing so much more on Aaron Jones and Devontae that Randall Cobb, he can get you, the 6 for 50 and a touchdown. And I think he can pay at that value too. And then my other one I had is the defense. So I think my defense I'm going to play this week is going to be the Texans, just because Carson Wentz is turnover prone. I watched the game for tonight probably about 30 minutes, and I watched him fumble the ball. So I think Texans at 2,200 again, really cheap value. You can get those big hitters in. I think that they can help you. Now, Cam, I have always wondered. So do you ever pay up for defenses?
Um, it just really depends on the week. I know that's not a clear answer. So yes, I would say there's probably 3 or 4 times over the course of a season where it's a really smash play that I will pay up. And then there was this season like 2 or 3 years ago where the Patriots
Mm-hmm.
defense was a lock for like 20 points a week because they were just so dominant, and so I paid up for them a good bit that season. But um, I mean, I think like everybody though, 80 to 85% of the time I am taking the cheaper options just because, you know, it defenses can be really fluky. Traditionally, the way that I approach it is I look at the, bottom 10 defenses and then look at the stats to see who gets the most QB pressure. Um, and because to me, QB pressure creates turnovers, whether it be interceptions or sack fumbles, whatever it may be. So that's typically how I approach it.
Jake, what about you?
Yeah, I typically don't pay up for a defense unless there's a situation like last year where the Saints got to play against a wide receiver at quarterback. Um, I usually just kind of roll with the defense that fits into my build already, and it usually works out to be, somewhere between 22 to 2,700 bucks, somewhere around there. So usually I'm just plugging in whatever fits, and especially if I'm building a bunch of lineups, if I'm going to do 10 lineups in a contest, then I'm going to have a different defense almost every time because you just never know. Like Cam said, it's so volatile that it just unless you're paying up for the stud defense of the week, it just any defense could have, 11, 12 points, and that kind of, can separate you from the rest of the field if you get that one defense right. So I like to, be pretty contrarian with my defense.
Yeah, I've always just seen people play it so differently. I've always punted defense, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it does not. Cam, let's go over your super value picks of the week.
Yeah. So value pick at quarterback. Um, I am going to go ahead and throw out my guy, who's always just criminally underrated and criminally cheap on DraftKings. That's going to be Taylor Heineke. Um, this man is just an absolute baller. I mean, he's going to throw the ball a ton.
He's a man of the people.
He just really is. So Antonio Gibson has not looked like the quote unquote Christian McCaffrey that they said they were going to try to make him. And even with all the receivers gone, Antonio Gibson has been just very underused for some reason. I know he's struggling with a leg injury, and maybe that has something to do with it. But Taylor Heineke just throws the ball. He's not afraid to let it rip. Um, Playing the Kansas City Chiefs, they're going to be down by a ton. Means he's going to have to throw the ball even more. I think you can go ahead and lock him in for 300 plus yards to get that bonus even, and at 5,800, I think he's well going to pay off his salary there. And so, Jake mentioned earlier, Terry McLaurin is one of his pay up receivers this week. If you wanted to do that stack, I think that's a great one. Moving to running back, both of you guys hit the nail on the head with it. Daryl Williams, he's going to be a smash play. He is that free space on the bingo board. Even with Clyde Edwards-Helaire being in the lineup, it has been about a 60-40% split snap share wise between CEH and Daryl Williams. So even with CEH there, Daryl Williams is seeing the field 40% of the time. So, it just makes sense that now he's going to become the main guy. And really his only threat is Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon is a good pass catcher, so I would not be surprised if he took some of that work away from him. But I think Daryl Williams will be the feature back now in that offense.
McKissick.
What?
Jerry McKinnon is. Keep going. Nope.
Yep.
McKissick doesn't play for them, but
JD McSmooches, of the Washington football team.
Oh, it's been a long day.
So yeah, Daryl Williams. I think we're all in agreement there. My wide receiver this week, and so whenever I'm looking at these value plays, there's two trains of thought when it comes to these. So some people are like, I'm gonna go grab that guy who he runs a 4.140, and he always had like a John Ross kind of player who has that chance of scoring a long touchdown to get you the points. Because I play cash games primarily, I look at people who get a lot of volume, like a Cole Beasley type. And to me, the Cole Beasley of this season thus far has been Hunter Renfro. They're playing Denver, and I know it's not pretty. They're going to be down a head coach, but Hunter Renfro seems to be the safety blanket for Derek Carr. Here's his 5 weeks target wise: 5, 7, 6, 8, and 8. All for 50 yards, just about or more, and he has 2 touchdowns on the season as well. So whenever I'm looking at the value options, somebody that I can just punt, I'm looking for somebody that is almost guaranteed to get me at least 10 points. That way they don't kill me. And I think Hunter Renfro is going to be that perfect guy at wide receiver this week.
what's his price?
4,900. So he's a little bit
Yeah.
on the upper end of the punt options, but
Right.
I think he is one of the better values at that lower range.
No, that's a good call. Yeah, for sure.
Tight end wise, Jake nailed it. Going back to the well with Ricky Seals-Jones this week. The thing that fascinates me about him more than any other tight end in this price range, I mean, he's $3,000. He legitimately gets 100% snap share, meaning he is on the field for every offensive snap. And typically, and I don't know if this is going to be the standard moving forward, but he is the guy that they put in motion to help Taylor Heineke read the defense. And I love players like that because anytime whoever that player is on any team, whenever he starts running across a formation and it's a favorable matchup based on what they've called the play to be, whether it be against a zone or against a man defense, like they are going to get targets coming out of the backfield, or he motions to one side of the line and then he runs out for a pass. He's going to see targets. Last week he got 8 targets for 41 yards. He got targeted 3 times in the end zone. Unfortunately, he didn't come down with any of those passes, but had he done it, he would have been just an absolute game winner for the week. even then, he scored 9 points. Being 2,500 this week, I still think he's too cheap, especially going against Kansas City, where they're going to be throwing the ball more. So yeah, I'm definitely going with Ricky Seals Jones. Um, and then defense, my favorite very cheap play there is going to be Detroit against Cincinnati. And again, going back to my earlier reasoning, Detroit is not bad getting off the line and pressuring quarterbacks, but Cincinnati's line, is just not great on the offensive side of the ball. And so I think any team playing against Cincinnati has a chance to pressure the quarterback, has a chance to get a fumble or generate a turnover in the secondary off of a duck pass. And so at 2,100, and Cincinnati not being one of the higher power offenses, I think they're a decent play this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Detroit, they could easily have 2 wins. Unfortunately, that they just have very bad luck. Very, very bad luck. Another one of my value plays this week is going to be Terrence Marshall. So I know he's a rookie. He's kind of like his target's been kind of whatever, but I think that the Minnesota Vikings, Breland is probably one of the worst cornerbacks in the league, and I think that the Peterson's going to be DJ Moore, shadowing DJ Moore, but I think Terrence Marshall could have this could be his week to where he breaks out. Like, he hasn't had such a good week in Cam. You can kind of speak to a little bit more, but what round was he drafted in? Second?
Yeah,
So
he was at
second
the
round
end of the
draft
second.
pick. I know he's young, but I don't know. I feel like either Terrence Marshall or Robbie Anderson, like, this is their week. Just because so many people are going to be on CMC and DJ Moore going against Minnesota.
Yeah, I 100% agree. My secondary consideration for this was Robbie Anderson.
He's forty eight
So he's
hundred.
at 48. Yeah, he's at 4,800, and his target share has only gone up over the course of the season. Last 2 weeks, he's gotten 11 targets and 7 targets. Granted, in both those games, they were really down.
Aren't they
Um,
deep targets too?
no, they're not
I saw one
necessarily.
pass that was
Like
like over the
they
middle, and Darnold just missed him.
they are, I mean, they're 15 to 20 yards, which, I mean, that is a long target in the grand scheme of things. But when you think Robbie Anderson, you're thinking that like 60-yard bomb
Yeah.
that he's going to catch because he is that burner on the outside. But I think against the Minnesota secondary, um, and Robbie Anderson being the player that he is, I think that he could have a chance to have one of those blow up games. Um, Being a little bit more on the inside of, paying attention to the Panthers offense and how they're calling plays. The one downside that I've heard and seen about Robbie Anderson is that Joe Brady, who's, the offensive coordinator for the Panthers, essentially uses Robbie Anderson as a decoy. And
Right.
so Robbie Anderson is on the field to, you know, put fear into the secondary, make them have to play back a little bit, get an extra safety back there to help, two even, and then open up in front of, like, let's say 10 to 15 yards down the field where they can dink and dunk to DJ Moore across the middle or Christian McCaffrey out the backfield. Um, that's definitely why Sam Darnold has come back down to earth with 5 interceptions over the last 2 weeks. Is we don't have Christian McCaffrey. The Christian McCaffrey factor is real. If he's not there to bring everybody up, um, you know, Robbie Anderson's going to have a very tough time. And I think if Christian McCaffrey is back, then Robbie Anderson definitely slides into that value consideration.
Yeah. So you're saying, yep. So if CMC plays, I'm going to be playing Robbie Anderson because he'll take the top off. I like that.
It seems that team in general just seems like a piece. You want a piece of that offense this week. They're coming off from 2 straight losses. It seems like they're going to want to get back on the right uh, track here. So if you want to pay up for DJ Moore or pay down at Robbie Anderson, I just feel like this is going to be a week where they're going to really want to try to get right and get that offense moving again. And if CMC is back, that offense hopefully kind of returns to its old self that we've seen the first couple weeks.
Agreed. And I think that's the thing there is I want a piece of this offense if Christian McCaffrey's back.
Right.
Yep.
If not, I'm probably staying away. Um, and maybe focus in other places. Because at the end of the day, when you look at the Panthers, whoever the Panthers are playing, unless it's just like the Buffalo Bills, it's going to be a relatively low point total based off of what that defense has looked like so far.
Yeah, for
We
sure.
could be proven wrong, but with the lower point totals, you're going to see less fantasy points. But like I said, if Christian McCaffrey's back, I'm fine with either of those options.
Um, I have a question about tight end. So tight end seems to be, the hardest position to get right in all fantasy football. What about David Njoku, 3,700, had 7 catches for 149 yards and a touchdown last week. Is this a random fluke game that just is the byproduct of that game going nuclear, almost 100 points, or is Njoku going to establish a role in that offense? What do we think?
It could go either way. If you take away that 70-yard touchdown pass, he's 6 catches for 80 yards.
But at tight end,
Which is
I'll
still a good
take
game.
that.
No, for sure. But I really think you just never know with Baker, and I think the Cleveland offense makes me nervous just because how much they want to run the ball. I think last week was just a weird. I'm trying to see how many carries did Chubb had. So 21 carries, and then so they had 33 carries last week.
My only reason for bringing that up, though, is this week they might see a similar game script, right? Going against the Cardinals, one of the best offenses in the leagues, 5-0. So you figure, that game's gonna be close, or they're gonna be losing, so they're gonna have to throw the ball. And if those safeties like Buda Baker and the hybrid Isaiah Simmons are gonna take away Odell and take away, the rest of their cast there with Donovan Peoples-Jones and whatnot, why not hit Njoku, short,
Yeah,
especially as athletic and big and strong and fast as he is as a tight end. I mean, he's always been one of those guys that I feel like is so underused. He's such an athletic tight end and seems so special when he gets the ball in his hands. It seems like it's so obvious, but it's just never come to fruition.
yeah, I agree. He could be a good play. Why didn't we talk about Justin Herbert again? 2 weeks in a row. Carson Wentz I felt like carved them up today. I like Justin Herbert this week a lot.
It's just for me, I like Herbert a lot. It's just I feel like if you're gonna pick a stacking option, I feel like it's almost like that Russell Wilson thing, right? I feel like you're almost half the time you're gonna pick wrong, right? When you have Keenan as his stacking option, it's gonna be Mike Williams. If you have Mike Williams, it'll be Keenan Allen that goes off. Now that seems to be changing this year because Mike Williams is going absolutely insane. But for me, in my lineups, I like stacking with my quarterback, obviously. So if I can't pick or if I don't know for sure who that number one option is going to be, it kind of pushes me off that quarterback just a little bit unless I'm going to do a double stack. But in cash, uh, I don't love to double stack as much.
Yeah.
Well,
I think Cam, were you gonna say something?
I was just say that the reason that I'm off on Herbert this week is because of Lamar Jackson. I mean, Lamar's only $100 more,
Yeah.
and if you want to take the eye test away and the hype and all of that, and if you just want to look at it from just a numbers perspective, um, Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert have had relatively similar passing yard numbers. And I mean, Lamar Jackson just finished tonight with 422 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. Um, and so on
Herbert has
average,
500 more yards passing, almost
but
600.
that's not including tonight though.
Okay, that's true.
Um, and so like you factor in those numbers, but then on top of that, you get the rushing upside of Lamar Jackson. Um, I and to me, Baltimore's defense is great. I don't anticipate Justin Herbert going off for 40 again. He'll probably have a similar. So like looking at Justin Herbert's fantasy performances, right? Against Washington, 18 points. Against Dallas, 19 points. Kansas City, he had 30. In Cleveland, he had 45. But then in week 4 against Las Vegas, he had 21. versus Lamar Jackson, he had 25, 20, 37, 22, and then tonight I think he had upwards of 40.
That was a 50 burger tonight, I think. Yeah.
Was it? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, probably with a 300 passing. And so, you're looking at a much safer floor plus all of that rushing upside for just $100 more. Especially with Herbert playing against a much better secondary than he's faced in most of these games. So that's the only reason I'm off of him because I'm gonna pivot to Lamar for just $100 extra.
And if you're gonna stack with Lamar, you know it's gonna be Andrews, right? Like at least maybe Hollywood goes off, but I feel like Andrews is still gonna give you, a pretty solid game. I think he is the number one receiving option in that offense.
I'll make a bet. I'll take Herbert more points than Jackson.
Well, that's a risky one.
I mean, I will certainly take that, but we can settle that in the one later this week because who knows, one of them might tear their ACL tomorrow.
Well,
Saturday show.
Barring injury, I will take that. The fact that you guys are hesitant makes me feel better.
No, I have no hesitancy whatsoever. I will take that right now tenfold.
Saturday show, locks and bets.
Okay, Cam will take a shot for it.
Deal.
Okay. Well, guys, we're pushing on the hour here. Anything you guys want to add before we wrap up?
No, I'm just interested to see how the week develops. I mean, who knows? Half of our plays by Saturday could be completely wrong since it is only Monday. So be excited for this week to get over with, have stuff develop, and set some freaking lineups.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would throw out there is there were a lot, and I mean a lot of injuries this week
Mm-hmm.
just across the board. So definitely pay attention to, who's going to be out, who's going to be in as potential, plug-in plays. I mean, I'm just scrolling through DraftKings right now. Somebody that comes to mind, like Geno Smith is 5,100. Russ Wilson's going to be out. He looks halfway decent, at least in the drives that we saw him.
Thursday, Sunday
And
night.
I don't think so.
Yeah. They're not on
Yeah,
the
they are.
main slate.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking at the Thursday through Monday lineup. That's why they're showing up there. Never mind. So yeah, but anyway, yeah, pay attention to the injuries. Like if Christian McCaffrey is going to be out again this week, Chuba Hubbard could be a fine play.
Yeah, he looked
And I
good
feel
last
like
week.
I feel like just about every single team has a key injury out there that you can pivot off of depending on what the decision is later in the week. So yeah, pay attention to that.
Yeah, Monday's first look. I think if you really want to do a good lineup, you play Aaron Rodgers and you play Devonte Adams because they're gonna destroy the Bears. I'm not playing Justin Fields this week. I need some hype for that. I've learned my lesson. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna wrap up. So it sounds like our next show will be Saturday, and that'll be more of a full lineup look. We should have injury news, and we'll be placing bets of the week, so locks of the week, to where if we lose, we have to take a shot on camera, and you guys can come and watch it. Cameron, Jake, thank you guys. Everyone else, have a wonderful night.